Welcome back to Carlo Perusa MMA. I'm Carlo Perusa, and today I'm with a special guest. He is making his return back to the UFC Octagon, UFC 302, taking on Grant Dawson. He is Mr. Joe Solecki. Joe, how are you doing today? Where are you up to, my man?
Good, man. Just finished a couple training sessions and trying to recover here and get ready for a little more later on.
So your fight got announced a couple weeks ago. Really exciting, big fight here. You're taking on Grant Dawson, guy who's coming off of headlining a fight night against Bobby Green. Overall, what were you thinking when you were first pitched him as an opponent?
Oh, yeah. I mean, immediately, of course, the yes. We pretty much, I think I said yes to everybody I've ever been offered. But, huge opportunity, because I'm continuing to fight forward in the rankings, which is awesome. So, and even for him, I feel like it's a high-profile fight for both of us, I think we both had weird circumstances in our last fight where we both lost in similar fashions, but also kind of crazy fashions. Like it wasn't like we both got beat by the opponent for 15 minutes. It was kind of freak stuff, right? So it's kind of like a mulligan this time against each other. So pretty cool opportunity. I'm super excited. Super excited about the timing and just plenty of time to prepare and get ready. And it's a fun challenge. He presents a lot of cool challenges to prepare for, and different than a lot of my opponents in the past. So I'm looking forward to it a lot.
Now, this one, obviously on UFC 302, how does it feel like to be able to actually fight on a UFC pay-per-view?
Yeah, really cool. I'm excited. I don't know how much of the process changes. I've been on a couple out in front of crowds like normal now. So, those are always fun. The preparation is always fun. Having the, just getting to be in the arena with the fans is always cool. But I don't know, how different it'll be from a fight night with a crowd. I'm sure a little more eyes on it, which in our field is always great. So I'm excited, and we can do it anywhere. I love the opportunity to fight in front of fans, but I don't care if it's the Apex, a scrimmage in practice. I got to know. It's competition. I got to know where I fall and what I can do. So, but the fact that we get to do it in front of, probably a sold out arena, pretty awesome.
Now, what aspects of your game do you think is going to have you have success in this contest?
I think it's how you put together as a whole, right? I can't sit there and predict what he's going to do, and I'm sure they can't do the same with me. You don't want to anticipate too much, but I think I've been working on my skill set since the day I put on my first pair of gloves, to round it out. There's been times where it's shown a little bit. There's been times where I've gone out there and blown out guys with the grappling, and nobody had to see anything else. There's different fights where you show conditioning. There's fights where sometimes two grapplers end up on the feet striking the entire time. So I really don't know how it's gonna play out, but I know that this is one where I can really show the body of work I put together over the last 10 years in this sport. So that's super exciting to me. It's an opportunity to show the world what I can do. And to show my coaches, my teammates, and the guys that see it in the gym all the time that I'm putting it together out there in front of the world, and just an awesome opportunity in that regard. So I think it's one of those where the conditioning that I've been putting in for years, the striking work, the wrestling, everything, it can come together, and you start fighting guys at this level that I'm at, you have to come with a complete skill set. Sometimes it shows, sometimes it doesn't, but there's those fights that bring it out of you, and I really think this has potential to be that.
Do you feel like in a way that this fight can kind of be your coming out party with a big win over Grant Dawson? Maybe that puts you into the top 15 against some of the higher level guys in the division?
I think there's definitely an opportunity for that. I think that's what makes it exciting, But at the same time, you never want to look at a fight and think this is going to be the one that changes everything for you, right? Because I had that go to my Jim Miller fight, and I went out there and it was kind of a boring fight, and I kind of shut him out, but it was boring, right? So then nobody really cared. And at that point in time, he was still kind of back and forth, wins and losses. And then after that, went on this great run we've seen him on. So it kind of aged like fine wine, but it wasn't, I thought in my mind I'd be a future Hall of Famer. Overnight, it's going to be crazy. And that's not really why I do it. Of course I want the bigger opportunities. I want to keep making more money, and I want to be the best. But this is a merit-based sport, so I just got to go out there and get wins, So I got to beat Grant Dawson, because if I do that, I always say kind of the same thing. Good things are going to happen for me, my career, my family, and that's what I'm worried about. But the fact that it's on a pay-per-view and he's been in the rankings, yeah, there's a huge opportunity on the other side of that, and I think I'd be crazy to deny that. That's awesome, but there's nothing beyond that day, June 1st. That's all I can think about, because start looking past it. It's a good way to never get to that actual finish line the way you plan.
Now, being removed from the loss against your car close, are there some things that maybe you've isolated on that you've learned, you've drilled a little more on that you're thinking is going to make you a better fighter because of that loss?
Oh, absolutely. Because the fight didn't get to play out a ton, I went out there and kind of controlled him in the grappling, made a mistake, ended up on my back, and then that was it. So as much as the X's and O's, there's not a ton to take away from. There's definitely, some tactics that you can take away from. Okay, how did I end up there? How did I end up, giving up that position that led to the loss? And even my processes going into the fight. I've looked at a lot of things, just some of the, mental processes and what do I need to improve on? What do I need to let go? Because this game's always changing, and as you get higher and higher in the rankings, I think the thing I've always done the best of is not waiting for a loss to grow and evolve and change things. Small things. I'm never a guy that's going to, throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's going to be small adjustments. What can I build on? Where can we improve? So, yeah, a bunch of things. I think the biggest thing was my processes, right? Some things I liked going into the fight, some things I didn't, some things I'm going to change. And whether it's, some of the mental preparation, some of the physical stuff, it could be weight cutting. There's always improvements to make. So it's just making sure I'm coming out a better fighter than before. And, I think the temptation too, off a win, is to change nothing, which I've always kind of been good about changing some things. And then off a loss to change everything. And I'm trying not to do either and just kind of make those necessary changes. That's where I have great coaching and, great mentors and guys that have been around a lot longer than I have willing to help me out. And for that, I'm super thankful.
I think one of the coolest things about you is the Power Rangers helped inspire you to get into the world of mixed martial arts. Is there any chance that you walk out to go Power Rangers at any point in your career?
No, I don't think so. Unless they move the fight to what were they from? Angel Grove or something like that. There's rumors that the fight's going to be in Newark. So if it's Newark, I think I meant to go with Bon Jovi or something like that and change my walkout song for the first time in a while. But being a New Jersey guy myself, that's kind of our claim to fame. So we'll see. But if they move it to the home of the Power Rangers, then maybe I would.
So in addition to being a current UFC fighter, you also have your own grappling promotion. What's been going on with that? Any fun, exciting news?
Yeah, we had our third event, our first one up here in the Charlotte area. We had that on March 9th. That was awesome. Great turnout. Just a great lineup of grapplers, and everybody came out and really performed well, and it was a lot of fun. So had a great time, great turnout. We got some new mats for it. It was looking good. We had good production rather. So camera crew came out and did an awesome job. We had the lighting, and I just feel like every event we're trying to make it more and more, higher level and take it to the next level. So with that in mind, I'm going to keep doing that thing going forward. I'm going to try to, pitch it to some of these streaming platforms. And, next time I'd like to add a live stream and, just keep on evolving and growing. So it was awesome. We're looking at one after my next fight. So we're either looking at June 22nd or July 9th. I'll announce that, or July 13th. Sorry. That's July 9th, not a weekend. So I'll announce that probably here in the coming weeks. So we're going to lock in a date, do it in the Charlotte area again. So, hoping for a great turnout. It's been an awesome time and another side of the sport that I just really enjoyed that I don't know that I knew I would enjoy that, but after the first event kind of knew, okay, this is fun. The nice part is I can never get away from the main thing. It's fighting, and not all these things, there's a few things I get to do besides fighting, and all of them complement and help me out a ton. Right. So, promoting, it doesn't really take a lot of my focus away. It doesn't take any of my energy away. Like, it's not a distraction from getting ready for a fight. And that's kind of what I wanted to make sure. If I'm going to do something to, help me when fighting is done and be there when fighting is done and also supplement now, I want to make sure it's not something that's going to take away from training ever or, take my mental fortitude and my mental space away while I'm trying to prepare for a fight. The other thing I get to do is coach here at Gym O and run the grappling program. And same thing, I'm coaching one class a day, 4 times a week. It's nothing crazy. I'm not, running a business full time. I'm not doing all these crazy things that, add stress. It's a fun thing. If anything, it helps me. So, yeah, super fortunate in that regard. These are just exciting things, and they're all in the world of mixed martial arts, which is really cool too, because I don't have to take away from the main thing, which, this is what got me here, and I want to make sure I focus on that until I'm done fighting many years from now.
Do you see any commonalities between preparing for a fight and preparing for an event when you're promoting?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do it, I don't want to say the right way, because there's a lot of ways to, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So everybody's process isn't going to be the same. But in fighting, I do think preparation is key. Whether you, do the same process as I do, we're all different. I know that. But I do think the guys that prepare and are diligent succeed more, and it's the same thing in promotion. I feel like it's the cliche, failure to prepare is preparing to fail, right? Like I have to sit and make sure I have a list of everything that I need to tackle in the lead up to an event. And if I do that, 12 weeks out, after taking the applicants and matching the card, as long as I line up the people who have their jobs to do, the same as you would have a coach, right? If my strength and conditioning coach knows about the fight, and I right now I have one head coach, and I'm pretty fortunate in that, who does everything, Jeff Jimmo. But when I had a boxing coach and a jiu-jitsu coach and this coach, they all have to be on the same page. You let them know the job that has to be done, and then they handle it, And it's the same thing with that. As long as the videographer knows we're having the event, the lighting guys know we're having the event, I have my, my referee and my couple guys that are going to work the judging and stuff, then we're good. I have my processes. Every, week I may have 2 or 3 objectives that need to get done. And it's the same thing in a fight, right? Where are we in our preparation? We're 12 weeks out. Okay, this is our general physical preparedness phase. Okay, we're 8 weeks out. This is when we got to lock in on X, Y, and Z. So very, very similar, for me, because I think how you do one thing is how you do all things. So it's just like a fight for me.
There's no doubt in 2024, mixed martial arts is a very mainstream thing. You see it on television every single day. I do believe that grappling and jiu-jitsu, is that starting to catch up as well? Do you think that those isolated styles alone have become mainstream as well?
I don't know. It's definitely gaining traction and it's gaining popularity, which is awesome. And it's becoming its own community and it's huge. There's no doubt. When you watch ADCC, it looks like a huge event now. And it used to just look like it used to be in a small convention center or a high school gymnasium. I think in 2007, it was in Trenton, New Jersey in a high school, which is crazy. That's our Olympics. So when you see what it's grown to, there's no doubt it's exploding. I don't know that it's ever going to be mainstream in the sense of people that don't participate in the sport watching it, because it's such a detailed martial art. It's very hard to watch. Even my wife will joke, we've been together almost 10 years now. And she'll be like, when we watch fights, she knows what's going on. She's a huge fight fan. She wants to watch cards more than I do a lot of times. But when it comes to jiu-jitsu, she's like, it blows my mind that after all these years, I still really don't know what's going on. So I think it's going to continue to grow because jiu-jitsu is growing as a whole, right? Like there's so many schools everywhere. When I started training in jiu-jitsu, my instructor was a purple belt. Now, if your gym doesn't have a black belt, you're just way behind. And that's crazy. That's all over the country. It used to just be, in the Northeast and in Florida and in California. And now it's everywhere. So it's definitely grown. It's exploding. And there's more access to it. I don't know that we'll become a spectator sport is what I'm saying. But even when it comes to mixed martial arts, the more I get out there, the more I see people are aware of it. But for actual fans, even the casual fans watch every card. They're just casuals in the sense of maybe they don't, they don't understand each martial art. But I meet plenty of people who still have no idea what the heck the UFC is. When you tell them you're a UFC fighter, like, what's that? What do you do for work between that? You're like, no, I'm on TV. Like, not that I'm running around being like, hey, I'm on TV. But people are like, what do you do for work? Oh, I fight in the UFC. Like, okay, so you make money doing that? You're like, wait, like it's on ESPN. How have we not solved this problem yet? Like it's a main sport. So I don't know that we'll ever cross over because it is still a niche thing and it's such a unique thing, But I think it's growing and that's great. I like that it's still kind of a niche thing because, when I was growing up, no one knew what the heck it was. Even the UFC, I would wear a UFC sweatshirt in school, this is probably 03, 04. And I would get made fun of, you can imagine what acronyms they would make up for those letters. But, and then jiu-jitsu, forget it. Wore a shirt with a guy doing an armbar once and I got ridiculed at school. And of course, when you're a kid, you don't like that. But now, looking back, it was kind of fun because you felt like you're a part of something special nobody knew about. Now people know about it a little more, but it's still kind of fringe. So if it can keep that niche quality and have the ability for athletes to make money, gyms to grow, I think that's kind of the perfect balance.
At what point in your maybe fandom, your years watching mixed martial arts, did you start seeing, the UFC, MMA as a whole, is really taking off and has escaped from the humble beginnings to be a sport that's going to be larger in life?
I mean, I guess when they made the move to ESPN, that was huge. I think that was probably the time. And as much as guys hate it, that was the era with USADA coming in. That was the era with Reebok coming in. And, I know it took away some opportunities, but it made it less messy. It really cleaned up. It looked neat. And I'm not here or there. I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I'm just saying that's when it starts to look like all the other sports. It's on ESPN. There's the uniform. There is production there. I mean, and then there was before too, but Now we're talking about, it's being covered on SportsCenter. So I would guess right around, that 2015 was when it was starting to get huge, it seemed like. And obviously, coincidentally, that's the McGregor era as well. And I think that put a lot of eyeballs on everything also, where now people who had no interest are like, who is this guy? I want to watch. And then when you watch, it's really hard to not come back and watch again. So I think that's really when obviously you can say Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner and The Ultimate Fighter, but even then it was super fringe. Now that was when big money is coming into the sport, and then you watch it over COVID, and that was, behind McGregor, that was probably the second biggest explosion, because for a little small period there's nothing else on. And people are like, well, I guess I'll watch this. Oh, wow, this is amazing. And, once you get hooked, you don't stop watching.
Since the rise of Conor McGregor, since the popularity, the actual superstar that he was, you see personality being added a lot more from fighters. You're a guy, pretty chill. I mean, you don't really do no personality, nothing really over the top. What are your thoughts on it? You see guys who, it seems like in this day and age, they're putting on a front. That's not really who they are, but they're acting like a totally different person. What are your thoughts? Do some guys need to do that? Do you think, you should just be you? What do you think on that?
Yeah, I've heard guys say, like, and social media is a perfect example. You're going to be 10% more yourself, right? You're going to be a small exaggeration of yourself, probably. And that's typically what it always was, right? McGregor really is like that, maybe he's putting on a little bit of a front, but I think in the later years, when he's mellowed out internally or gotten a little more insecure because he's been losing, you can see he's kind of forcing it, right? But early on, that was really that guy. That's why he was so special. He's being himself. He's being genuine. Whether you agree with it or not, that's your personal opinion, But that's why it was captivating. The copycat effect, it's just so forced, and I just can't get down with that, because now, McGregor has to live with whatever he put out there. The things he said about Habib, whatever it is, like, he's got to live with that. And there's going to be people that hate him, people that don't, whatever it is. And you can see, I think he's kind of gone off the deep end a little bit, right? Was it worth it? You'd have to ask him. But when you look at the copycat acts, like a Colby or, guys like that, number one, you're putting something out there and then people go, well, that's not really him. Yeah, but if you're willing to put that out there for so many people, then that's kind of who you are, right? Like if I'm willing to take a stance on something and tell people, this, that, and the other thing, and then behind the scenes I'm doing that, well, then even worse, then I'm kind of a coward. I'm not really being myself, right? So I think the copycat era has gotten weird. I think a lot of people see through it. But you got to do what you got to do, and that's everybody's personal choice to make. It's just not for me, I want to make money. I want to do, great things in this sport, but I'd much rather do it on my merit. And the way I look at it is a couple things, right? I have kids, and I want them to be able to look back on my career and say I did it the right way. And I know there's more than one way to do it, and there can be multiple ways to do it right, but I want it to be one of the right ways, to not be embarrassed, not to cringe every time they hear an interview or something. And to know that every time I got a chance to talk, it was about hopefully something good, hopefully them, or, some kind of legacy I'm hoping to leave behind, or glorifying God. My faith is huge to me. And that's the other thing I look at is a lot of guys go on, and I don't have a huge following, so I don't really think I bear that burden too much. But you look at these guys with tons of followers, and people are looking up to them. What are you putting out there to the younger generation that's hearing stuff? Because whether you want to agree with it or not, they're hearing that and they're impressionable, and you're the cool guy at that point in time, and they're going to try to mimic that. So whether you want that on your conscience or not, it's kind of comes to territory. So I don't have to deal with that. I think I'm a pretty low key guy. I have like less than 10,000 followers. Nobody cares. But if I can fight, handle my business, take care of my family, honor God in the process, I'm more than happy with that legacy to leave for my kids, and hopefully they'll follow suit in whatever they pursue in life.
You touched upon it a little earlier, but there's definitely a lot of casual fans who watch the sport, which I've grown to see that there's positives. There's negatives to it. Positives, more eyeballs on it, more money for the fighters, more marketing, all that. Negatives, it pains me to be at an event and you have two jiu-jitsu practitioners working on the ground, wrestlers, and they're getting booed for fighting for positions. Obviously, jiu-jitsu and grappling is something that you take in a very high regard. How do you handle that when you see that?
I mean, I think you just have to understand that it's a necessary evil, right? The fans are what pay the bills in the UFC and keep the lights on. If nobody tuned in, then none of us would get paid. So we've got to, you got to tolerate it. And I think you just got to understand that it's just human nature, man. People just tear each other apart, especially in this world we live in right now. It's just such a broken world. And instead of building each other up and understanding that, you know, the guys on TV are human beings too, and sometimes you're going to come across those comments, they don't feel so great, right? It's just understanding that that's not even how that person probably feels, and 10 minutes later, they're forgetting about it. You know, they just want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want that dopamine hit of getting the 100 likes on the comment on the UFC page. It's just a crazy world we live in. And now what I notice is it's in every sport. You know, I think it's a little less personal because when you watch football, like I notice it all the time now. I started watching football. You know, I grew up an Eagles fan, kind of stopped watching when I moved to the South, started watching again this, you know, last couple of years, but especially this past season, back into it big time. But you watch, and like my mother-in-law is guilty of this. I love my mother-in-law. Shout out to my mother-in-law. But she'll watch the Steelers and be like, oh, they stink. You know, and you're like, they don't stink. They're just losing to another. There's 32 teams. There's, you know, 32 jobs at that position in the NFL, starting jobs. That guy's one of them. He doesn't stink. He's just not number one. He's number 28. You know, like, but it's less personal in those sports because it's a team and it's a game. When it's fighting, these people get mean, man, because – but then I think we take offense, or our friends and family take offense because, you know, if you saw the work that goes in, the sacrifice, you know, what we're putting our bodies and our minds through, you know, it's a chosen sacrifice, and I love it. But I think that's where people start getting offended or start getting hurt because, you know, you're putting your heart and soul out there and being vulnerable in front of the world for 15 minutes. And, you know, if you're lucky, you get 3 cracks a year at it, two cracks a year to show the world what you can do. And it's the craziest sport in the world where, you know, stuff happens all the time where the better guy doesn't win. So it isn't quite like the other sports. So I think it's great the casual fans are involved. I think the more content that gets put out there where fans can relate to the fighters, like the embeddeds or, you know, even the stuff that goes a little deeper than that, or the more fighters can put out there to build their following, I think you get that connection, and now you start to get that little support that, you know, in victory and defeat, you know, you have those people behind you, and, you know, you're always going to have the knuckleheads, but you just kind of got to kind of understand that, you know, half of them are bots and the other half, you know, are probably in way worse situations than you, and you got to have some grace.
You know, a guy that you were at one time going to fight, Mr. Benoit Saint-Denis, took on Dustin Poirier a couple weeks ago now. Crazy fight. Benoit opened up as a huge favorite, ended up getting finished by Dustin in the second round. Since, you know, that could be a potential guy for you at some point in your career, what did you think of his performance?
Yeah, it was a valiant effort. You know, he's a gamer. I think the strategy was weird, and, you know, I guess you got to figure out, you know, what do you want to take his word at face value with the antibiotics, or do you want to, you know, or is it energy management? But I've seen him come out in every fight like a bat out of hell. So in my mind, that's just not live by the sword, die by the sword. But you can't fight like that against Poirier. You better get him out of there if you're going to do that. But how many guys get him out of there in the first round? So I don't know that it was the antibiotics. I think it was the pacing. I think he's a super violent guy and a super aggressive guy, and that's what got him to the dance. So I'm not necessarily saying he should have abandoned that, but that comes at a cost, right? When you fight everybody, ignoring what they're doing back to you, I'm not going to move my head. I'm not going to, you know, faint. I'm just going to go get them. That's great until it works, until it doesn't, right? So I think that's what he kind of ran into. He ran into a super game veteran who isn't going away easy, and I think he'll come back better, you know. But, yeah, super fun fight to watch. I mean, he had Poirier in all kinds of danger, and Poirier is just a man. I feel like when I watch him fight, I can never tell if he's playing rope-a-dope and, you know, letting them grapple or punch themselves out, or if he's actually getting hurt and getting beat. And what does that say about his poise that you can't tell? I can't tell, and I think I have a good eye for the sport. So it's just fun to watch him, man. That was a masterclass.
One of your teammates in action tomorrow night, taking on Bruno Silva. Mr. Chris Weidman makes his return, Atlantic City. What should we expect from Chris? How's he looking here in training camp?
Man, he looks awesome. He's a force. It's crazy to me when I go online and you want to talk about, you know, people just counting somebody out or, you know, the crazy comments. It's him. Like, that guy's a legend. You think about the stuff he's walked through in this sport. Forget the leg break. Before the leg break, that guy's a killer. That guy took out Anderson Silva twice. The first fight knocked him out. The second fight dropped him before the leg break and was dominating him there. Took him down, controlled him. In Anderson's prime, Machida, Vitor Belfort was beating Luke Rockhold in that fight until, you know, that spinning kick. A couple skids, but then took out Gastelum. And even in the fight, the last fight, with on one leg, had Tavares hurt multiple times against the fence. It just blows my mind the disrespect that he gets, and that makes me mad because that's one of my all-time favorite. Before I met Chris ever at Jim O, I mean, I had met him in passing at Sarah's in New York, but like one of my all-time favorite fighters. You know, somebody I really look up to, and again, just a good guy in the sport who I think does it the right way. So I think it's gonna be fun to watch, man. I hope he gets a hold of this guy and just throws him around like I believe he can, and don't be surprised if he clips him either. That guy's got power. So I think it's a great fight, but the fact that he's an underdog against the guy who's, I think they have the same record in their last 5 fights. So why is it so crazy that he can go out there and smash this guy? Yeah, it got me fired up seeing those comments and stuff. But he's been looking great. He's been training like an animal, and what an awesome privilege for us here at Jim O to have that guy in the room to learn from. You know, he's been all over, done everything, been in huge fights, won tons of them, lost a few, bounced back, and then the injury. Like, there's something for every situation in MMA that guy's been through, and he's still here, still training hard, still in the room with the young guys, you know, hustling, and that's super impressive to me.
All right, Joe, last question for you. In a perfect world, what goes down when you take on Grant Dawson at UFC 302?
Man, in the perfect world, I get my hand raised. I don't care about the means, you know what I mean? Whatever it takes. Perfect world, the fight is still is in New Jersey, like the rumors were. Go home, get my hand raised, get back in the win column, get back to work on Monday, man. It's truly all I care about right now at this point is get out there, do my best, show the world what I can do, and get my hand raised after 15 minutes.
Joe, I wish you nothing but the best, my man. Thank you for taking some time off from training and hopping on here talking to me today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Carlo. It was a blast. Take care, man. Have a great weekend.
Joe Solecki. I'm Carlo Fruza. Stick around.